at some point in time, we may even step away from our business to some other chapter of our life. Do you have a vision for that? Have you begun to think about that in your business?
Yeah, so some may refer to it as going from success to significance.
Yeah.
And me, as I was talking with Adam, who is our CEO, Adam Hergenrather, and we were in conversation about a partnership, I told him, I said, I'm just going to be very direct and upfront with you. I totally use my business as a platform for a voice of something I'm very passionate about. And so, Steve, you made mention to it earlier when I told you about the surprise of the twins 21 years ago.
Yeah.
The bigger surprise came 3 years later when the second twin was diagnosed with autism. And, when that happened, I had a really, really hard time. The first twin was diagnosed, and then the second twin was diagnosed maybe 3 or 4 months later. And I remember, it sounds so dramatic, but I'm telling you, this is exactly how it happened. The day the second twin was diagnosed, I literally was in my kitchen and I had just gotten back from the doctor, and I fell to the ground in my kitchen and screamed at God and said, why did you do this to me? This is not what I signed up for. And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I was going to be the football mom and the soccer mom. And my husband and I are really social and really all of that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know what to do with autistic kids. And even though my background is in psychology, it's one thing to have a degree in it and to talk to others, but for that to be your reality, I didn't know what to do. So then I proceeded to spend the next 2 years apologizing for my voice. For those who are familiar with autism, some common features that you may see are stimming. We call it self-stimming, where they may flap or make noises or flap their arms and do some things that to the outside world looks weird. And so I spent a lot of time apologizing for things that I thought others might perceive as weird and might make them uncomfortable, the other people uncomfortable. And I also remember that about 2 years later, I don't remember the exact situation, but something clicked in me. And I said, you know what? I am never going to apologize for these boys again. They are the greatest gift that God ever could have given me. And from that day on, I thank him every single day for giving me the opportunity to be blessed with these boys and to be able to be a voice for parents and individuals with special abilities. Notice I don't say special needs. They have special abilities. And I believe this so wholeheartedly, because what happens is, when someone has special abilities and they look different and they act different, every single human that God made has a gift to give the world. And that gift can sometimes be wrapped in a box with a big red bow. And because they don't look like everyone else and sound like everyone else, we don't get to unwrap that bow and share their gift with the world. And so by having a voice for those with special abilities and advocating for inclusion, then those with special abilities get to share that gift. And I promise you, the world that receives it is as, if not more so, benefited by that gift than what the person that is giving it. And this was really brought to light when I was introduced to Best Buddies in 2016, which is an international organization on inclusion. And it focuses on building genuine, authentic one-to-one friendships where those with special abilities partner with a typical functioning peer to bridge that gap of social isolation that happens as a natural part of many of those with special abilities. Then as they age out of school, there is a jobs program and a citizens program. Because did you know, Steve, 81% of individuals that have special abilities are on disability. They can work. They're very capable of going to work. They just oftentimes have to have extra supervision and extra support, and companies don't want that. So, or say they can't afford it. So when I learned about Best Buddies and we started a chapter in my boys' school, and I saw how not only did it change my boys' lives and my families, the typical functioning peers were like, these guys are the greatest ever. I'm like, oh, so I became this huge mouthpiece for Best Buddies. And now, because I do a lot of speaking on stages, both locally, nationally, like Friday, I'm going to speak at a regional event in Vail, Colorado. And every time I speak, I always find a way, because people are like, oh, you've done this, and this. How have you done it? And I say, well, everyone needs to have a why. Do you want to know what my why is? Yeah, I want to know. And then I tell them about the boys and about Best Buddies. And Steve, typically by the end of every time I get to present it, at least 25% of the room is either crying or coming up to me afterwards saying, My daughter has Down syndrome. My grandson has autism. I didn't know that this existed. There's so many arenas where we can help people if we can just be a voice and get the message out there. So when you ask about my future and vision and where do I see things, I see continuing to use the real estate platform as a voice, as a platform to have a voice for inclusion. And then ultimately what we're looking to do is to build a place called Gus's Place. So Gus, of my twins that are on the spectrum, Tucker is the higher functioning, Gus is the lower functioning, and he'll live with us forever. And I always thought that, oh, Gus is going to live with us forever, until I met a lady who had a 20, I think at the time, Jeremy was 24 years old. And she said, yeah, my son's autistic. And I said, yeah, Gus will live with us forever. She said, I thought that same thing, Dawn, until in the same year, my husband had a heart attack and I got breast cancer. And I realized we aren't going to be around forever. And the worst thing you can do to a child with autism is to change their routine and their schedule. That's very, very hard for them. She said it was both of us getting sick at the same time that made us realize we needed to have a different perspective on what we were going to do for a long-term option for Jeremy. And that kind of went, oh my gosh, you're right. Well, I mean, Steve, look on every other corner, kind of like a Walgreens or a CVS. There's an assisted living facility on every other corner. Well, guess what? There's a massive population and need for those like a Gus who need to have some sort of long-term living support. So we are going to build a place called Gus's Place that's going to be a home for those with special abilities so they can have their community and their inclusion.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.